Listen, we're here at Cannes, and even if we weren't at Cannes, the reality is there's a couple, real realities that are impacting business performance and business planning. We can talk about AI, we can talk about retail media, we can talk about agentic commerce, we can talk about all these changes that are really influencing consumer behavior.
Yeah.
The funnel's been compressing for quite some time,
Yep.
but it really is compressing because behavior is evolving, consumer expectations are evolving. So would love for you to just start by sharing a little bit about what you're seeing with your consumers at CVS, and then what you're hearing with advertisers as you are working with them to help drive growth.
Yeah, and I would say it's not even a compression of the funnel. I think the funnel is somewhat almost been disregarded now. And it's a non-linear way in which the consumer is engaging with fragmented media, because media is everywhere today, wherever you go, whatever you do as a customer. But then also how you are thinking about purchase behavior, right? Like there might be a product that I see suddenly in my social feed that I didn't realize that I ever wanted, and now suddenly I've gone and purchased it, right? So I think there's changes in the way in which consumers are being delivered message, and then also how they're engaging. But then what does that mean for us from a retail media perspective? Well, we're seeing that level of change come into effect just in terms of the different channels that are available to us, the different ways in which we can communicate with the customer as well. So of course, full funnel is really part of what we do, but in a old context, and almost like the old world of advertising, full funnel is, certainly a part of how we want to engage with brands and how we want to make sure that we bring solutions to them. But what we're seeing in terms of customer journey is changing rapidly. And it's not just changing rapidly in terms of our environment, it's how the customer is getting to our environment, the need state of that customer, the category that they're buying, and their reason for being within that overall, within the CVS. So when we put all of those pieces together and layer on top of that, you've got last mile, you've got how does digital influence the in-store sale? These are all evolving ways in which the brands have almost got to get their arms around a changing consumer behavior. And our role, just what we're doing within CMX, is thinking about how do we operate at each one of those stages and provide level of personalization and, more importantly, discoverability of products at every stage of where they're thinking. So if I have a need state today and I need a product now, how do I provide a customer with the right choice for them where they're showing up digitally or when they're showing up physically? So we're really thinking about that. We're thinking about that with some of our in-store. We're thinking about that in the way in which we show up on our sites. We're thinking about that with last mile and what we want to do there. But it's a challenge for brands, and brands have got to get their arms around what's happening here, but not just treat all retail the same. How do you understand different customers for different retail environments and what they're actually bringing and what you should be bringing to them in terms of a message?
Yeah, well said. I mean, discovery has, I don't want to say forever changed, but it definitely has evolved very, very quickly. The expectations from, e-commerce to social commerce to agentic commerce are very, very fluid and elevated, and data and signals become the common thread to make sure that you can create those personalized experiences. You can promote discovery in the right way. You can connect discovery into commerce really seamlessly, which really gets to, while that fragmentation is real, performance matters more than ever. And measurement, therefore, becomes a critical key to help influence and drive confidence in business decisions. We've obviously been, having a lot of working rhythms across our teams. You've always believed in performance and accountability on dollars invested. What are you hearing from brands on business performance accountability? How are you seeing measurement evolve? And let's talk about where the frontier looks from a measurement standard standpoint.
If we just zoom out for a second, based on what we're seeing, we've been, as brand marketers, been very much trained to drive e-commerce and digital conversation and engagement to drive digital transaction. And yes, that is a behavior. We see that. But there's also digital conversation and engagement that you're seeing in those channels that drive physical. But there's also customers who just come into our store and buy products. And we see 94% of our customers who come into our store environments will leave with something. We also see about 2/3 of our overall customer base who don't have a digital relationship with us. They just have a physical relationship with us. So how are you talking to both the digitally enabled customer who knows what they want, as coming to the environment to purchase something, or how do you talk to the customer who's not digitally enabled by us, but is coming to our environment? So those are two very different behaviors that you've got to make sure you wrap your arms around in a 360 environment to talk to all of those customers. If you layer on top of that, in addition, how measurement is so fragmented as well, because while we might have a relationship with a customer in a digital environment, they move into a physical environment. That physical environment might not be a CVS environment, right? We're realistic about that because there are certain need states and use cases for the way in which CVS shows up on your, on your journey, and there's others that are not, right? And that's okay. But understanding the customer, understanding a level of personalization, understanding when they're ready to purchase with the right message is really important. But that comes back to the question around fragmentation, right? Fragmentation of media is fragmentation of measurement. And that's what we're seeing in the marketplace. And I think CMX does a really, really good job of, number one, being transparent around the measurement and the way in which we measure. And number two, not just about transparency, but transparency with a really, really high standard. We work towards the IAB standards for measurement that were, outlined, and we work to a high level of standardization around that. And not just for our digital, but also for our in-store. But that gives us the ability to measure our own home. And we have to build trust with brands that we're measuring it in the right way. But then how do we think about measuring the neighborhood? How do we think about measuring when we deliver a message to that customer and that customer goes and purchases in other retail environments, which is absolutely real today? That is where there is a level of fragmentation that it should be a consideration for brands, because you've got to be looking at the customer and how they buy, not just the customer and how they buy at a store.
Right.
And that's I would say, a big opportunity for the industry as a whole. And someone with the reputation of Circana, as with the work that we've been doing, is to bring in and level set, not just for retail, not just for retail media, but also for the brands as well that are activating in that environment.
Yeah, it's a really well described environment of what marketers, agency partners on behalf of marketers are navigating through.
That's right.
And we are proud of the diversity of assets that Circana has across so many countries around the world. Where we in the U.S. market, where CVS predominant based, 92% POS census across all of the intelligence of what's happening within shopping behavior. It really provides a acute perspective on business impact that brands are unlocking through their ads. But measurement has to move from a reporting diagnostic into a business decision engine. Right. And that's where the inconsistency that exists today, retailer to retailer, channel to channel, agnostic of retailer, is something that we as an industry need to elevate and influence in material ways. And it's been great to work together with your team as we think about your comment of we know it's happening in our house, we don't know what's happening elsewhere. There's no doubt. We know human behavior is about shopping across multiple channels, multiple retailers, and as you know, and you should be proud of, we're seeing up to 60% of incremental impact of a CMX dollar invested that's happening outside of CVS. And as you talk to brand partners about that potential, that power, it really comes down to signals, understanding signals, and maximizing investment, and making sure that you and your team and agencies can optimize off of these really rich signals as well.
And it becomes that foundational layer of data and the way in which you're utilizing those assets. And when we have extra care and the loyalty program, that not just the sort of the latitudinal, but the longitudinal nature of that loyalty program, we do truly understand the customer. But the customer is the customer is a customer. And they're not just a customer of CVS, they're a customer of many other retailers as well. And, that level of increase that we're seeing when we think about total market is phenomenal. And then that provides a level of and a foundational layer for us to then educate the market. We have to educate the industry, brand marketers, their agencies on saying, look, this is the net positive effect and the ROI impact of you spending $1 with CMX or with whoever it is, right? But this is what it will drive for you. Doesn't just drive impact at CVS, it's going to drive impact to drive total growth on the category or total growth for the brand or new to brand buyers and so on. So this is a big opportunity, I believe, for the industry as a whole. And I think Circana and the partnership that we have with you is front and center there, because you're the most trusted in the industry when it comes to measurement. Let's call it for what it is.
Well, we take that with high regard, from the expectations that the market has. And it's a big responsibility. It's a big responsibility. It's a huge opportunity to bring a new layer of influence and understanding across the market. And it's one of those spaces where we believe there can be a relief valve of tension when you have common understanding and consistency and in assessing a dollar invested. The organizational design elements that cause tension on how money moves to build growth. Let's go back to growth. All of what we're trying to do in this industry is about helping brands grow.
Right. 100%. Like, that's why we're in this industry.
That's it. And we think about helping brands grow. The tension that exists from an org design standpoint exists within retail. It exists within brands, right? Customer teams, marketing teams, merchandising teams, media teams. I'd love for you to share a little bit about what you're doing at CVS and specifically as you lead CMX through to break down organizational silos for your team.
Right. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's easy, right? Because it's difficult within, retail environments that have been doing things a particular way. And then, the retail media comes along and into the market and starts to really change things and change perspective. We're trying and working really hard to break down some of those silos, and we often use programming in order to break down that silo. So our tent poles initiative, all of our tent poles initiative, what we do is we bring together our marketing organization, our merchant organization, and our retail media organization, and bringing that sort of the three legs of the tripod in essence together around the program drives maximum impact. It drives maximum also ROI for everybody who's involved in that program, and we've some really, really strong results on how we've been driving efficacy there.
Well, there is no doubt it is an exciting time in the industry. It's an exciting time to lead change in the industry, productive change. I love I talk about healthy tension. You talk about positive friction. Yeah, the sentiment is the same, right?
Yeah.
Well, what can we do both from a customer standpoint to create connection, create community? Yeah. What can we do from an advertiser standpoint to blossom and help brands really make a difference and show up in purposeful ways? And you and the team are doing wonderful things. We appreciate the relationship, the partnership we have. We appreciate being a part of the measurement ecosystem to continue to support the commitment that you have that we jointly carry about media accountability. So thanks, Parbs.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me.